Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're going to continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll just pull up the page. We are on Canto 3, chapter 30, and we are on the text number, let's see, chapter 30, and then the text, we are on text number, let me just check it, where did we read till yesterday? Till 20, so we'll read from 21 today. Tayo nirbhina hridaya starjanir jatave patuho pati swabhir bhakshyamana arthogam swam anusmaran. We have been reading yesterday of what happens at the time of death. So continuing to read translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. While carried by the constables of Yamaraj, he is overwhelmed and trembles in their hands. While passing on the road, he is bitten by dogs, and he can remember the sinful activities of his life. He is thus terribly distressed. It appears from this verse that while passing from this planet to the planet of Yamaraj, the culprit arrested by Yamaraj's constables meets many dogs which bark and bite just to remind him of his criminal activities of sense gratification. So this is a very terrible situation, because the spirit soul cannot die. We can never die. But after we leave this gross body, the subtle body is still with us. Our mind, intelligence, false ego is still with us. So, because the mind is still there, we can still feel everything. We can feel this terrible pain. So it is said in Bhagavad Gita that one becomes almost blind and is bereft of all sense when he is infuriated by the desire for sense gratification. He forgets everything. Kamesthester hrita jnana. One is bereft of all intelligence when he is too attracted by sense gratification, and he forgets that he has to suffer the consequences also. When we have that intense desire for sense gratification, we forget everything. We say, no, I must have it, I must have it, and we are willing to do anything to get it. Then we don't even care. We are like, oh, whatever. I don't know if Yamaraj exists or not. I don't know what's going to happen at the time of death. Who knows? Let me just enjoy while I'm in this body. Here, the chance for recounting his activities of sense gratification is given by the dogs engaged by Yamaraj. While we live in the gross body, such activities of sense gratification are encouraged even by modern government regulations. In every state all over the world, such activities are encouraged by the government in the form of birth control. Women are supplied pills and they are allowed to go to a clinical laboratory to get assistance for abortions. This is going on as a result of sense gratification. Actually, sex life is meant for begetting a good child. But because people have no control over the senses, and there is no institution to train them to control the senses, the poor fellows fall victim to the criminal offenses of sense gratification, and they're punished after death, as described in these pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the reason, so that we don't suffer. The Shastras keep saying, don't indulge in meaty intoxication, gambling, and illicit sex, because otherwise we will have to pay for it. We don't pay for it till the time we are in the body, but after we leave the body, laws of karma are very intricate. We may say, who can see? Nobody can see, but the Paramatma is there in our heart. So at least if we have heard and chanted during our lives, then either we can go back home, back to Godhead, or we can get a nice situation in the next life to further our Krishna consciousness and go back home, back to Godhead. So we don't need to suffer. So we may say that, oh, Vedas are saying, don't do this, don't do that. But the reason they are saying is because they don't want us to suffer. It's like the mother tells the child, hey, don't do this, don't put your hand in the fire, you'll get burned. Don't put your hand in the running fan. Don't touch this hot cup. And the child will get upset. What is this, all this don't. But it's only for the good of the child. That's the reason the mother is saying these things. Similarly, the Vedas are telling us not to engage in sense gratification for our benefit. Shrutrit paritor rakadvana nilehe shantapayamanaha patitaptavaluke krichrena prishte kashaya chataditas chalati ashakta piniras ramodake. Under the scorching sun, the criminal has to pass through roads of hot sand with forest fires on both sides. He's whipped on the back by the constables because of his inability to walk. And he's afflicted by hunger and thirst. But unfortunately, there is no drinking water, no shelter, and no place for rest on the road. So this is the journey of the soul. The soul has just been dragged out of the body, and he's being made to walk on this hot, hot sand. And there is forest fire on both sides. He's being whipped and lashed, and the dogs are biting and barking, and he's thirsty, but there's no water. He's hungry, but there's no food. He's tired, but there is no place to rest. So we say, oh, the person left the body, now he's resting in peace. But that is just imagination that we have made up, because we don't know. So we see that the body is just lying down, so we think the soul is also lying down. No, depends on what our activities are. The soul continues on its journey. Tatra patan shranto murchita punar uttitaha patha papi yasanita starasa yamasadanam. While passing on that road to the abode of Yamaraj, he falls down in fatigue, and sometimes he becomes unconscious. But he's forced to rise again. In this way, he is very quickly brought to the presence of Yamaraj. So he's tired, he falls unconscious, but he's woken up. So, because the soul can never die. Soul can never ever die, no matter what you do to the soul. Cut it to pieces, burn it by fire. It can never die. So the soul is living. Yojinanam sahasrani navatim navachadvanaha tribir muhurter dvabhayam va nita prapnoti yatanaha. Thus he has to pass 99,000 yojanas within 2 or 3 moments, and then he is at once engaged in the torturous punishment which he is destined to suffer. 1 yojana is calculated to be 8 miles, and he has to pass along a road which is therefore as much as 792,000 miles. Such a long distance is passed over within a few moments only. Can you imagine? 792 miles we can walk in few moments. Not possible for us, but in the gross body it's not possible. But our mind can go very far away in a moment, very far. So this is the journey of the soul in the subtle body, and the Yamadutas are there with him. So they are dragging him. The subtle body is covered by the constables so that the living entity can pass such a long distance quickly and at the same time tolerate the suffering. This covering all the material is of such fine elements that material scientists cannot discover what the coverings are made of. To pass 792,000 miles within a few moments seemed wonderful to the modern space travelers. They have so far traveled at a speed of 18,000 miles per hour. But here we see that a criminal passes 792,000 miles within a few seconds only. Although the process is not spiritual, but material. So we are trying with such great endeavor. Now again, there are some people who want to go into space, requires great speed, so much money is being needed. But here, the journey of the soul, this is the journey of the soul that in a few moments, the soul is made to walk 792,000 miles in just a few moments. This is when he has just been dragged out of his gross body. Adi-Panam Swagatranam Veshta Yitvol Mukatibihi Atma Mam Sadhanam Kwapi Swakritam Parato Apiva. He is placed in the midst of burning pieces of wood and his limbs are set on fire. In some cases, he is made to eat his own flesh or have it eaten by others. From this verse through the next 3 verses, the description of punishment will be narrated. So why we are always encouraged, don't engage in sinful activities, because otherwise the suffering is terrible. We don't realize it now. We say, oh, I can get over it. Nobody is watching me. No, nothing's happening. Why all the scriptures are saying, don't do this, don't do that. Rather, don't listen to the scriptures. Who needs the scriptures? Let us enjoy life. That is all the modern civilization is all about. Forget the scriptures. Don't read the scriptures. Do whatever you want to do. But here, the punishment is being described, what we are going to go through. The first description is that the criminal has to eat his own flesh, burning with fire, or allow others like himself who are present there to eat. And can you imagine eating our own flesh or letting others eat it? So gruesome. In the last Great War, people in the concentration camp sometimes ate their own stool. So there is no wonder that in the Yamasadana, the abode of Yamaraj, one who had a very enjoyable life eating others' flesh has to eat his own flesh. So this is the reason we are said, don't eat animal flesh. Don't eat meat. Why? Because we will have to suffer this kind of a suffering where we will have to eat our own flesh or others will eat it and we can see it happening. Jivatas Chandra Vyudharaha Swagridrer Yamasadane Sarpa Vrishchika Damshadyer Dashadibis Chatma Veshasam. His entrails are pulled out by the hounds and vultures of hell, even though he is still alive to see it. And he is subjected to torment by serpents, scorpions, gnats, and other creatures that bite him. Seems so terrible. So terrible. Krantanam chav Yavasho Gajadhibhyo Vidapanam Patanam Girishrin Shrinkebhyo Rodhanam Chambu Gartayo. Next, his limbs are lopped off and torn asunder by elephants. He's hurled down from hilltops, and he's also held captive either in water or in a cave. So if these things were to happen to us in the gross body, we would die immediately. We would leave the gross body immediately. But this is happening to us in the subtle body. It's happening in the subtle body. And because the living entity never dies, then just enough punishment is given so that he can watch it also. All this, the living entity is watching him, all these things happening to him, and he's suffering because of this. Yastamishra Dhatamisra Roravadyaschayatanaha Bhunte Narova Nariva Mitha Sangena Nirmitaha. Men and women whose lives were built upon indulgent and illicit sex life are put into many kinds of miserable conditions in the hells known as Tamisra, Andhatamisra, and Raurava. Materialistic life is based on sex life. The existence of all the materialistic people who are undergoing severe tribulation and the struggle for existence is based on sex. So we are here in the material world, and what's keeping us here is our attachment to sex life. Therefore, in the Vedic civilization, sex life is allowed only in a restricted way. For it is for the married couple and only for begetting children. But when sex life is indulged in for sense gratification illegally and illicitly, both the man and the woman await severe punishment in this world or after death. So, because one of the restrictions is no illicit sex. And this is the reason why the Vedas say no illicit sex, because there is punishment waiting for us. In this world also, they are punished by virulent diseases like syphilis and gonorrhea. And in the next life, as we see in this passage of Srimad Bhagavatam, they are put into different kinds of hellish conditions to suffer. In Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, illicit sex life is also very much condemned. And it is said that one who produces children by illicit sex life is sent to hell. It is confirmed here in the Bhagavatam that such offenders are put into hellish conditions of life in Tamisra, Andhatamisra, and Raurava. Reading on, Atreva Naraka Swarga iti mata pachakshate ya yatana ve narakyasta ihapi upalakshitaha. Lord Kapila continued, my dear mother, it is sometimes said that we experience hell or heaven on this planet, for hellish punishments are sometimes visible on this planet also. Some unbelievers do not accept these statements of scripture regarding hell. They disregard such authorized descriptions. Lord Kapila therefore confirms them by saying that these hellish conditions are also visible on this planet. So many people, if we speak to them about the scriptures, they say, what? You're so old-fashioned. What age are you living in, You're not at all modern. What do you mean? We are living 2020, 2022 right now. What do you mean by speaking from the scriptures? You see how much development we have made. There's so much other literature to read. There's scientific journals to read. Why are you reading the scriptures? But the scriptures are eternal and they teach us about the truth. So many people, they disregard that there is this kind of punishments or hells that are there. So Lord Kapila, they were saying that sometimes in our life itself, we can experience hellish conditions or heavenly conditions. It is not that they are only on the planet where Yamaraj lives. On the planet of Yamaraj, the sinful man is given the chance to practice living in the hellish conditions which he will have to endure in the next life. And then he's given a chance to take birth on another planet to continue his hellish life. So, on the planet of Yamaraj, the training is given to the person. Training is given so he can accept to live in a abominable condition. He's first trained in the Yamaraj's planet, and then he's sent to his destination where he has to live in the abominable conditions. For example, if a man is to be punished to remain in hell and eat stool and urine, then first of all, he practices such habits on the planet of Yamaraj. And then he is given a particular type of body, that of a hog, so that he can eat stool and think that he's enjoying life. So, because, for example, the living entity was in the body of a human being. So he was not used to eating in a gross way the stool and urine. So now he needs to get training because of the consciousness is like that. Because the consciousness has become like that. So he's given a training in the planet of Yamaraj, and then he's given a body suitable to engage in such activities. So our consciousness is what is creating our future bodies. And that's the reason it is so important for us to try and revive our Krishna consciousness so that we don't end up in such abominable conditions and we can be reinstated in our original position. It is stated previously that in any hellish condition, the conditioned soul thinks he is happy. Otherwise, it would not be possible for him to suffer hellish life. So the soul, he's pushed inside the body of a hog after he has been given sufficient training, and he feels very happy. The hogs are very happy doing what they are doing. They're very, very happy. That is the illusion of material nature. That is the illusion. We think we are happy in whatever body that we are put into. Any questions or comments? No, then we'll stop here for today. Yeah, it's okay. So let's stop here for today. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shilpa Prabhupada ki jai. God Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for listening and joining.